Hi, I'm Gordy Gundaker. Welcome to the Dirt Parlor podcast.
Hi, I'm Don Martin. Welcome to the Dirt Parlor. And this thing is big.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's episode of the Dirt Parlor. I'm joined always by my great co-host, Mr. Don Martin.
Thank you.
We want to start by thanking all of our great partners. We want to thank Steve Martin and Ace Duran. We want to thank also Nutrient Ag, Jeff Hoker with Hoker Trucking, Bo Popejoy with Hot Rod Septic, Bodies by Skinny, Checker Customs Screen Printing and Embroidery, and Reed Millard with Millard Family Chapels. Also want to thank Maria with FK Rod Ends for coming on for 2026. So we're going to get straight into it. We got a guest today stepping up for a big season this upcoming year with a new team. So we're going to welcome in Spencer Bayston. Spencer, how are we doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thank you guys for having me on. I've been a long-time listener, so always fun to jump onto a new show with a fun group of people.
Well, we're excited about having you. First of all, great run last week at the Chili Bowl, number one.
Yeah.
Great job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
11 spots at top 10. That was it's a wild week, obviously, right? I mean, just in general, and you don't race midgets much anymore. So to kind of pop in there and go 20th to 9th, that's got to be a pretty good week for you.
Yeah, it definitely was a good week. Obviously, you go there to try to compete up front and be there at the end on Saturday. Granted, we were a few spots back, but when you're sharing the building with 400 others, there's a lot of people that like to be in your spot. So to get a top 10 out of it was definitely good. And it was my 6th year with RMS, with the Eastet family, running with them. We've had some great success in the past, winning a couple of races, and we've been working to try to be there at the end on Saturday. But we'll try again next year, maybe.
What do you think you need to do at the Chili Bowl? Naturally, you're a former USAC champion. We all know that when you did it with Keith, so it's not like you haven't been around the block in these things. And actually, as you get more into the 410 racing and the wing stuff, what you're doing, it's seat time now, isn't it? It's got to be seat time.
It is, yeah. Seat time definitely helps, and it kind of takes me, a handful of times on the track between practice, running Race of Champions is super beneficial for me. And then, midway through your prelim night, you start to feel like, okay, I've got my muscle memory down. Everything feels natural and comfortable. So I'd like to think, you watch guys like Logan and Cannon and some of these other guys that run them all year long, like they don't make as many mistakes, but I do feel like it's somewhat like riding a bike. Emerson ran obviously a spectacular race, not having ran a lot of midget stuff this year. You watch guys like, Buddy Kofoid, who obviously was out this week, but anytime he gets back in one, he's really fast. I try to be that myself. So, you can't make any mistakes that week, really. It's every time you're on the track, you got to be going forward, and any little hiccup is costly. And you see it happen all week long. Guys that are in contention to be a top 10 guy come Saturday can't even, make their way up because something silly happens or just a costly mistake was made. So it's a cutthroat week, but we enjoy it. It's always fun to go hang out with all your friends, middle of winter, break up the off season, have a little fun, and get to do a little racing.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I think for one, after I got my very limited experience of the Chili Bowl, you realize how grueling racing on that racetrack actually is. Like, I mean, it's smaller, but shit happens so fast there, right? And one of the hardest lessons I learned real quick was if you have to run the curve, you better run it balls out, or you're not going to be able to do it. And how you guys make it look so easy is pretty impressive, because it's not at all, right? I mean, you see how upset the cars get, and obviously the track is ever changing, especially like in the 55 lapper on Saturday, and the adjustments you guys make throughout the race. Obviously the kind of wall ride deal has kind of played itself into factor the last couple of years. What, I mean, for you, the difference between running the sprint car and the midget on a cushion, something like that, what's the biggest difference you'd say in those two cars and those two different dynamics?
Well, it's that's probably what takes the most time to get comfortable with is the biggest difference between the two is one leans left, one leans right. And in the midget, you're exactly right. To especially that chili bowl, to make speed around that place when you're up top, like you got to hammer it. Like you got to keep your wheel spin up, you got to lean on it, use it to kind of propel you around the corner. And some cars I feel like handle it better than others. I think Kevin's cars this week, Swindell's cars this week, were really, really good when they're up against it. Like they had this almost kind of winged down attitude a little bit, like left rear, squatting, and Emerson and Logan and Cummins and that Jet Barnes kid, they could just hammer the top and carry so much speed when he got up there and made less mistakes. Like it was really, really curvy this week, kind of in an odd way compared to years past. Track changed a lot, especially in the 55 lapper, and got just to the point where, a lot of the guys I was around, maybe not on the flow broadcast, but a lot of us were biking every other corner, making a lot of mistakes. And it's like, who could string together 4 good laps, could pick off a car or two. See, that's what makes it tough in that building, though, is just when it does get really technical like that, can your car handle it? And can you run it to that fine edge where you're almost carrying your left sides, but keeping it stable enough you can still make speed?
Yeah. Well, the other thing too, that I felt like I noticed a lot was that hole off of 2, the kind of leaving the corner. That seemed to upset a lot of guys. It seemed like guys were trying to either turn down off of it, which sucks because then you have no straightaway speed and you can't really follow around it because the wall cuts back in. But whoever could kind of get through there the best and make the most speed, you were able to slide whoever was in front of you. But watching, like you said, watching Logan and Emerson, they were able to kind of power right through that without getting upset, where everybody else, was kind of pedaling or whatever else. And it made for great racing. It made for a lot of action, I guess you'd say. But I know it had to be uncomfortable as hell because, at that point is when you're picking up the most speed. And then next thing you know, you're just blasting through this like little whoop section, going down the backstretch.
Yeah, I was watching. I got to the building in good enough time to be able to watch some good races there, some of those later mains, and then for the pole shuffle, I went down and I kind of seen guys struggling off too, and see the kind of the whoop section. So during the pole shuffle, I went down to the infield and I stood in turn 2, just because only 2 cars on the track at a time. You can really listen and kind of watch and see. And I'm standing there watching some of these guys go through and bounce and bicycle and wheelie off there. And I'm thinking like, oh, this is gonna be a long 55 laps because that hole's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But it was interesting hearing how everyone kind of ran it just a little bit different, and also what their cars look like. So then I go back and talk with Bill, my crew chief, to kind of figure out, okay, what looked better? What do I think I need to do to try to get through there the best? And ultimately, like, for us, yeah, you can't peel off of it. Like you said, you peel off of it and exit early, like you're making no speed into 3. Angles are all messed up. So it took me a minute to get it figured out as it got a little choppy, but we were able to handle it, I think, better than some of the other guys. That's ultimately why I think we were able to pass a decent amount of cars, was just figuring out how to manipulate your feet, manipulate the car to get off of 2. 4 wasn't nearly as bad. But turn 2 was just full-blown supercross whoop section.
Yeah, it looked like it.
I'm really excited. We can talk about Chili Bowl all again, but I'm really stoked for what I think the season you're going to have this year. Gordy and I know we've talked about it. I think that we watched you after the split last year with Jason Myers, and we watched you the way you ran the West Coast.
Yeah.
And then we watched you get right into the midget, of course, for the Chili Bowl. You've got a lot of good things going on with you, for you, and I'm happy for you because we talk about this all the time. I hate it when guys get condemned before they even get in a car,
yeah.
And I can't stand it. And I was glad to see you put the haters away, and you're going to keep putting them away. And I love it. I love who you drive for. Gordy and I are great friends with Richard and Jennifer. And this guy here is really close to Stenhouse too as well. And I think we're as excited about as anybody watching Spencer Bayston have a sensational 2026.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you got to be pumped up for this season.
I am. I really am. It feels special for one, just to work with Richard and Jennifer Marshall, with Ricky Stenhouse. I met Richard and Jennifer back in, I believe it was 2015. They sponsored the Clausen team that I happened to be driving for. And then with Ricky, that was right around the same time I ran Chili Bowl, I think a couple of years with him. So getting to know him a little bit better. It feels like kind of just everyone, we just all made full circle. Obviously, the race fan in me I've watched a handful of guys jump into their stuff and seemingly always be fast, show them have great success and build a really good resume in that car over the last 8 years, I believe it is. And so for the opportunity to be able to align with a team like that, with a brand like NOS Energy Drink, with individuals like Richard, Jennifer, and Ricky, it seems and feels to be the perfect combination. Get back on the Outlaw Tour, go compete with the best of the best, and everything just feels right. And the personnel side of it with Kyle Pruitt, Ace Pruitt, and Joseph Cease, it's just like everyone has such a good attitude about it, and everyone's excited. It just feels really fresh, and we all feel motivated to. We're all new to the team as members on the car side, so we're all kind of excited to go try to make a point and find our place in the sport. So we're looking to hit it hard here in a couple of weeks in Volusia.
Yeah, that's one thing I want to ask. Obviously, you kind of have a wild 2025. You're in and out of some rides, doing different stuff. Did you expect the phone call from Ricky? Had you had any rumblings like, hey, you might be, getting an offer to drive this car? Or what kind of led up to all that? And then really, I kind of want to know what that phone call was like when after you accepted it. I mean, obviously a ton of excitement, but, kind of walk us through that whole situation, how all this came together.
Well, I mean, we were running through the summer months in the 14 car, and obviously things just hadn't really gone great. We had our moments. There were some nights we were good and competitive, and then there was a lot of nights we just couldn't piece it together. So rolling into Knoxville, I knew it was coming. We had already kind of made plans that I wouldn't be going west after the nationals were over, but no one else knew. So yeah, going through the Knoxville week was kind of an odd, different feeling of just not knowing what comes after that. And frankly, I didn't think I didn't know if my phone would ring. I mean, I knew there would be maybe some rides I could go jump in to run a little bit here and there, but legitimate, full-time national touring cars, like I haven't ran that well this year. I don't think I'm probably going to be at the top of the list on anyone's list. So, fortunately, Paul Silva called me and went out competitive right out of the gate. Quick time first night, ran on the podium.
That scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell happened?
That scared the absolute shit.
We always say that Scott's with us all the time.
I can't wait for that to come up on camera because that is going to be great because I know I jumped.
We do. We always say that Scott's with us.
Fucking Christ. Oh, shit. Okay. All right, back to it.
So, yeah, Silva called me. We were fast right out of the gate. And, we're able to string together a number of good runs in that car. Then jumped into 21, kind of backed it up. Like it wasn't just a fluke. We're able to go out and be competitive, almost win the Roth race. And just kind of around that time between the W car and the 21, I felt like, okay, I might be in the conversation here on some of these opportunities. I think I've proven I can still make speed and compete. So, yeah, when the conversation started going with Richard and Ricky, I had heard that there were conversations being had amongst the owners and some other drivers, and was just kind of maybe thinking in the back of my head, like, I wonder if maybe they'll call me, like maybe they're still searching. And sure enough, we aligned and had some really good conversations and reminisced on some of the old times and planned for the future.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure, obviously running the Outlaw Tour, either national tour, right? That's the ultimate goal. And you do it in anybody's equipment if they're willing to do it. But stepping into a team that is as established as Stenhouse Junior Marshall is, with, like you said, great marketing partners and NOS. The nice thing for you is that going into this season, you're going to have every opportunity to have as much success. You don't, there's no wasted funding there, right? And for a driver, I'm sure last year with the Jason Myers deal, right? You and Corey are there, and it's a 2-car team has got to be tough. There's a lot going on, but with this, you're the sole guy there. Everything is to make sure you succeed, and I feel like that's probably got to be a big confidence boost for you just going into the year, knowing that you have everything there to pretty much have a great 2026. Obviously it just lands on your shoulders now, but it definitely helps a lot knowing you have all of that backing with you.
1,000%. I mean, we're at the upper echelon of motorsports and on the dirt world. So like, in order to compete, you got to have more than just a flatbed and a chassis and a motor. Like, you got to have what it takes to compete at the highest level, because the top 20, 25 cars that go, across the country, like, everyone's got the same stuff. And everyone has funding, everyone has capital, then they're able to buy the best of the best. And so, in order to be in that conversation, yes, you got to have partners like NOS, individuals like Lauren that invest so much with the NOS brand into the sport of, into the dirt world, and really, the presence she has created in the last decade is absurd. I mean, it's like she's just kind of taken over with that NOS brand, and to be able to represent that, I'm really proud and humbled for the opportunity, first of all. But yeah, just to align with people that have a business mindset. Ricky has ran through the ranks. He's been involved with very successful individuals on the ownership side with marketing partners. Has a great understanding. And Richard and Jennifer, obviously, two successful people that knows what it takes to run a proper business and to find success in whatever they're into. So, like I said before, I think we just have all the right tools to really go make a splash this year and hopefully carry on into the future.
I think one of the other things that's going in your favor too is the relationship that you have with Sunshine. I mean, it's obvious. You guys have a great relationship. I know that Tyler used to tell me a little bit that you're not a bad golfer, when you guys have been out together a little bit. But I think that goes a long way. I think the two of you, the way you communicate, and I think even though you're going to be on different tours, I think the communication with Jake and you and your whole team, I think there's going to be a lot of synergy among the two teams. I really do, because of your relationship with Sunshine. I think is really beneficial.
Yeah, I think it's super valuable. I think the fact that, granted, to put it, black and white, we're still competitors. So like, you still, when we meet up at these places, you're going to want to, beat the next guy. But in the same breath, we're going to also work together. We're going to be running a lot of the same equipment, shock packages, engines. We're there to help each other as well, right? To better everyone involved between, our team, the Sunshine's team, and even Geo's team, to just elevate all the teams and kind of work together with the same idea that we want to be in those top conversations when you roll into the big weeks throughout the year, and the points end up at the end of the season. You want to be at the top of that as well. So I think it's to have relationships and people you can lean on definitely help. And the NOS family has helped me. All the NOS guys have kind of helped guide me a little bit in these early days of being one of the drivers, to the do's and don'ts, and to make sure you navigate the process well and represent the brand accordingly.
Yeah. Well, that's the other fun part about the whole NOS side, right? Lauren is very diehard about everything. It's one of the things. I think we were somewhere one time and I walked in with the wrong water bottle, and I got yelled at for that. And I told her, I said, "Well, hell, I'm not even a NOS driver, and you're yelling at me." And she said, "You should know better." I'm like, "All right, yeah, fair enough." So, obviously, it's cool to see. For you guys, that little band of, I guess you guys are like the band of brothers now. You all right over there?
No.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Oh, man. That's good. Yeah. We're not cutting that out either. We're leaving that one on there for sure.
Yeah. Wow, that was bad. Dude, I went down the wrong pipe.
All right, you good now? You think we're all right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But so it's cool, that band that you guys have now between, the three we just talked about, you, Sunshine, and Geo. That obviously it kind of gives, obviously they're installing a second team. And that you have to have information, right? That's one of the biggest things about racing in general, is having information. And nobody gives away their best secrets. We all know that. But some couple times when you get a little off or you're trying to find speed somewhere, if you've been struggling, having a few guys to lean on goes a long way. And I think that's what's obviously great about that whole NOS brand. Like you said, you're competitors, you race against each other, but it ends up being more of a camaraderie deal, right? Because you're all, you're not teammates, but in a way you are. And I think that's what's so great about it. And I think for you going into this year with already having some guys to lean on, just allows you to succeed faster right out the gate.
Yeah, no doubt. It's important to have peers that you can rely on and call during the weeks. We're all out trying to accomplish the same thing. We all have the same goal. But when you might be down a little bit or struggling. Golly, dude, I'm sorry.
You're fine. It becomes a mental thing. Now it's in your head, right?
You guys give it to Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah. Trying to just clear it out. Give me just a minute.
Need the entourage, the Johnny Drama. Hoga! Just get that baby right out of there.
Jesus. Sorry about that. Fuck. Okay. Yeah, I got your question. Yeah, I think it's super important to to have peers that you can rely on. Obviously, we're all out trying to accomplish the same goal. And we leave these tracks a lot of these nights, and some nights you're questioning, like, man, what am I doing wrong? And when you can call someone like one of your teammates or your NOS buddies to pick their brain on a few things and feel like maybe you can get a little bit better information or someone you can really rely on to help you out. So that's I'm excited to have that for sure.
I was going to ask you too, like when you being on a tour like that, and both you guys have run tours, and when you're running, like when you're struggling a little bit and you get behind and you start, you get into some confidence issues and you're on the road, and we both know when you get to racing with major series, Scott Bloomquist used to always tell me, goes, dude, I don't throw a life preserver to you. I throw you an anchor. Yeah. My job is to keep you further. If I can get a guy down, I want to keep him down. I don't want to see him get. So, when you look at that in the course of a season of like with the Outlaws, we're talking almost 100 nights of racing, and you get behind and you get a little bit down. Spencer, what helps you? You think racing the next night and more races, sometimes you go, whereas NASCAR, if you have race one time a week and you had a bad, you got to wait till all next week. At least you have the opportunity sometimes, to race 2 or 3 times a week where you can kind of, but then again, if you're struggling and you keep struggling, that's no fun either.
No.
To be going 5 times out of the week. So how do you keep yourself motivated?
It's Yeah.
especially last year because you went through it. I mean, you did. You went through some tough, freaking times last year.
Yeah.
And
I think some guys are able to handle it better than others. I've definitely talked to people about that. Guys like Brad Sweet, Gravel, that are at the top of the game, and they obviously at some point, one way or another, had a bad run of something. So
yes,
everyone's been through it, but I think the key is, and it's a luxury that we have, is we get to race so much. We can go absolutely blow a night, make all the mistakes, but you get to go to bed and wake up the next morning and just forget about it and move on. And there's only one way that you can focus on, and that's forward. And learn from your mistakes. But it's to, for me personally, when I have a bad night, or have a bad night because of something I did wrong, a mistake I made, that brings on an amount of anger, disappointment in myself, and that quickly transforms into motivation for tomorrow. And how can I go hit it harder, focus more, and try to just perfect and eliminate those mistakes. That's always been my thing. Is it's those mistakes are big lessons, but also very motivating, because you like you just said, I mean, you stay down, like they keep you down, and they'll just keep kicking you, because you got to eventually climb your way out of it in order to be able to compete.
Well, and I think, especially when you're out on the tour, listen, it is very easy to get into a lull where things are going wrong, and it snowballs, right? And it just keeps going over and over again. I promise you, it's not lack of effort from anybody. Usually what ends up happening is, as racers, usually we end up trying to do too much, right? And that's the easiest thing to do. It's almost like we think in one night we can make it all back up, and then you usually end up doing something a little more dumb and setting yourself further back. And I think, obviously, like you just said, leaning on guys who have been successful in the sport is one of the things I don't think people maybe at home realize how much camaraderie there is with the drivers in general. Like we've talked about, it is competitive. You don't want to lose to anybody in that pit area, even your buddies. But the guys that have reached the pinnacle have done a really good job. I know they've done it in late model racing. You see it in sprint car racing. They're very good mentors, right? And leaning on those guys is a huge thing. And I think also for your sake this year, having a guy like Ricky, obviously you guys have a relationship, but having somebody who is still competing, right, at the highest level of motorsports allows you to have good conversations and kind of wash some of those bad nights away, right? We know every night you're not going to win every night. You're not. You're going to run bad. You're going to flip somewhere. You're going to blow a motor up. Just that's part of racing, and you got to figure out how to bounce back. But having that good core around you, and then being able to actually bounce ideas off of guys that are competing with you, or like I said with Ricky, that's going to help, I think, tremendously. Probably for you, obviously just because you've had so much going on, but having just something stable that is consistent, and obviously Ricky's on your side, right? He didn't bring you in as just because he felt bad for you, right? That's not the thing. Ricky wants to win just as bad as anybody else does. And it was really cool when we were at Charlotte, right? Obviously we haven't even talked about that, but you go right into Charlotte and have a great weekend. I was sitting there with Ricky, and he was jacked up about the weekend you have. And then I'm sure he relayed that right back to you. So I think that probably is going to help you a ton throughout this year as well.
Yeah, I've been lucky to have a lot of good mentors, I think, over the years, that can kind of speedball the learning process, but also assist in the mental aspect of things, and kind of someone you can just vent to, and then generally they're going to give you something back that you can take and run with, and help yourself. And Ricky's a perfect example of that, having been through the sport, having ran through the ranks, having had lots of success. Someone that understands exactly what you mean when you throw them a scenario, throw them a problem. And yeah, it's just cool to be involved with Ricky because of his position in NASCAR, and the fact that he's still giving back to the sport. wanting to have involvement. And then to be able to align with Richard and Jennifer, two individuals that have poured, so much into the sport and in their involvement all across all divisions, it feels like, have a lot of experience and a lot of know-how when it comes to this stuff because of they've lived it and breathed it, had success, had failures, and they've seen it all. So I think it's important. The experience is important. I still look at I know I'm 27. I still feel like I'm young, but I'm starting to realize that I'm like getting closer to the older group. But to have people like that you can really lean on and look up to help you, learn and navigate the process, I think is important. So, all those people are the reason I'm excited to be involved. And, we're just anxious to get moving.
You're gonna feel way worse once you hit 30. I promise you. I'm 33, and I'm telling you, it catches up to you way faster than you think. So you got plenty of time. You're still way down there. If you ask Donnie,
I don't know you can go in there.
Just go see Donnie. He's gonna make you feel way better about yourself. You just go up and call him Grandpa of the group, and you're gonna be like, I got plenty of time. So, it's and I think that's it is crazy, right? When you look at the sprint car side compared to the late model side, right? Like there's not a ton of guys on the sprint car side that are in their 40s still racing, like there is on the late model side. Like, hell, that's when you just hit your prime on the late model side. So, but when you kind of look at that overview, I think of like the dynamic of, like you just said, like, I'm 27, I still feel young. Like you're plenty young, right? And I think it's cool because you've traveled through all these different forms of motorsports, right? You've run the USAC stuff, you've bounced in and out of rides, and it's like all of that led to this, right? Which I think is great because it shows that people obviously trust in you to be successful. You have a great group that's behind you, and now you land into a great spot, and I feel like from here is like where your career takes off, right? I mean, that's one of the things that Don and I talked about when we heard you got hired in is, I'm sure you read it. Well, hopefully you didn't read too much of it, like the social media stuff, right? We talk about it all the time, how damning it can be. And I mean, obviously a lot of people were kind of writing you off as soon as this deal was talked about it. And Don and I talked about it on here. We're like, I don't understand this, like you're a talent, you have obviously a ton of ability, and really, you made us look good because you went straight to Charlotte and went out there and ran good, and then we were like, yeah, see,
called it.
So
we called it.
But I think it's cool because I feel like this is a good launching pad for you for what the rest of your career is going to look like, and obviously you're in it to win championships and races, and what a better spot you could be in than this one.
A big goal of mine these last handful of years is been to trying to find a home in the sport and a place where you can go spend a 5, 8, 10-year run and really build towards something, because that's seemingly where these guys that are having success now is they didn't just get hired with that group a year or two ago. They've been there, like they've grown with that group and built an entire foundation, and I think that's crucial. And that's been a big focal point of mine these last couple of years. I would say 5 years ago, I didn't care. I just wanted to ride. Like I'll go run 10 races in 10 different cars if that's what it takes. But, having been on the road a handful of years now and kind of seeing and absorbing a lot of what's happening around you and the things that those teams like, Brad and David and Carson and some of those guys have been able to focus on is they're focused on things at another level than what the new, come together teams are focusing on. Just because they've already been there, done that. They're past the minuscule things. They're focused on the important things, and that's long-term success and how to get there. So that's been a huge focal point of mine, and I think if I'd be able to make a home with this group, then I would be thrilled, because just the members that are involved, I really like the little bit I've gotten to work with Kyle Pruitt, my crew chief. I like everything about him. He's super sharp, extremely motivated, very organized, just a smart guy, very kind. Um, and I just everything's feeling really good right now.
You know, Gordy, when he started talking about how the team over time, we had a guest on and we both were looking, we know who we're talking about.
I am.
And it's the 87 of Reitzel. And he exactly said exactly what you just said. And he loves the fact, he says, when these different guys keep moving around and stuff, he goes, dude, that benefits me.
Yeah, right.
And I'll let Gordy even talk a little bit about that.
Well, and listen, when you're building a team, right, you spend months and months on the road with these guys. And if it's interchanging parts all the time, you never build any chemistry, right? You never learn each other. You don't have that, right? You see crew chief swaps all the time, and those are tough on drivers because, the one thing that you do is you pretty much drive the race car the same way, all the time. That's our driving styles, right? That's the way it works. And you want to gel with your crew chief. And when you're jumping in and out of cars, and it's things are happening different, and you got a different guy telling you he likes to do things one way, and that just doesn't set you up for success. Where when, like you said, you get to a place where you're staying and you build a home and you build chemistry with these guys, that's where the championships come from. That's where the top fives and the top tens that are consistently happening come from. And you erase, exactly like you said, the DNFs, the stupid things that get missed because you're just kind of flying, by the seat of your pants. And I think that's, from my standpoint, it's why I'm so much of a race fan as well as a racer. I love watching all the sprint car stuff. I love watching the midget stuff because, you understand the hours of preparation that go into these race cars every night. And you become a family on the road, right? You have to, because if you don't, it's just all going to go shitty. It just, unfortunately, it's just the truth. There's not many guys on the road that have success if they hate each other. You hear all the stories about Donnie and Ricky Warner, and they didn't get along great. Well, they were an anomaly, I guess you'd say, but because anybody else you got to get along with. And so it's, I think it's, it just aligns with exactly what you're saying and what Reitzel said, and building that team up to where you're, everybody knows each other, right? You have to know each other like the back of each other's hands. You get to know their families. You get to know all their backgrounds and where they came from. And you end up learning so much about people. And usually it ends up bringing out more intelligence from everybody because you're not stepping on toes going, oh, I can't say this or should I say that? And then really it's just open forum, when things are going good or things are going bad.
Yeah, that open transparency is huge. That's extremely important. And the trust, right? Understanding that, hey, I can trust that guy if I tell him something, and he can trust that it's true and honest, and likewise, if I go out there and make a mistake and blame it on the car and try to tell him something's wrong with the race car, well, he's going to work himself into a rabbit hole trying to fix it when it's all me. And that the trust that he needs to have is I would never do that. And he would never tell me that I'm driving it wrong rather than him fixing something, right? So that trust is the number one most important thing that I think you have to have. And yeah, the Donnie Ricky thing, I don't know, that's crazy. I've heard stories about how they didn't get along. I think they're just both two extremely talented individuals that were able to make it work. I mean, I've heard good stories too of when they, would have a good time. It's obviously they didn't. I don't think it was always maybe that way, but yeah, I think to simplify the process, make it efficient, and to give yourself the best opportunity for success. I think that trust and that chemistry that you build with those guys, I think is extremely important, and to the point of getting to know all their families. And when you spend more time with them and some of their family members than you do your own, if they're, out on the road with you and between races and whatnot. So, yeah, just the chemistry and the trust, two very, very important things.
The other thing I wanted to talk a little bit, I've met your mom a few times, and your mom, Sherry, she's about as good as it gets. When I look at two people in the pit area, I think of Sherry Bayston and I think of Jennifer Marshall. I mean, there are a lot of similarities between those two. There really is. And I think that's, you have to have that, and you having that presence around you, because your mom has always been so supportive, and now naturally you're married and you're on the road now, and I'm sure you putting some responsibilities on the wife to sell some shirts, and and talk a little bit about what your mom a little bit, because she's really visible. You see her a lot. I mean, she's not shy about letting you know who her son is, and I think it's great.
Yeah, she's her and Jennifer both two very bubbly personalities. Um, always want to make you feel welcome and a part of anything that's happening. Um, Fortunate, yeah, to have two really good parents between my dad and my mom, and the support they've always given me. And I don't come from a racing background. I'm the first one in my family to race anything, so to kind of have my own newfound burning desire as a young kid of I want to be a race car driver, not knowing really what that meant, but that's what I wanted to do. To have two parents that would kind of throw everything on the wayside just to let me go race um, and pursue my dream and support me to kind of get me to that national level, and then push me out and then just come cheer me on, is really special to have. And yeah, I think my mom and Jennifer share a lot of the same personality traits, and just their loving and welcoming personality. And it's always nice to have that type of figure within your group for sure.
Yeah, I want to ask, is there obviously there's the Eldoras and Knoxville and all that. Is there a race on the schedule this year that you've kind of got started as somewhere you're kind of fired up going to, that, maybe you've had some success at, or something you're really like, hey, this is something I have on my bucket list outside of the others that you're really looking to get to?
Um, out Outside of the standard, probably not. Like Knoxville. Knoxville's just it's always probably you know marked on my calendar of, okay, that's the one. We need to focus heavily on the races leading up to the nationals. Every time you can get a chance to go to Knoxville to run races, it's a place that I've dabbled a little bit with relatively successful runs, I guess. I haven't won a race there, but have put up some podium runs, and obviously with the Knoxville Nationals locking in last year, running third on a prelim night was big, and it keeps you motivated. It's kind of similar to your golf type scenario, like you hit just one good shot and it keeps you coming back. Like
Yeah.
the last couple of years of having some good runs in Knoxville, it just keeps you coming back to try to improve and just keep getting better at such a technical, tricky place. But there's a handful of tracks on the Outlaw schedule that I didn't get to run the last couple of years, just with being on the high limit side of things, that I'm looking forward to going back and running.
Real quick, you talk about Knoxville, and talk about the details that go into it. I mean, you were good in Bernie's car. I mean, you were. I mean, that's where I noticed it right off the bat when you showed speed there. And so, what is it? And if the Nationals were not at Knoxville, would you still say this? It's everything. All roads lead to Knoxville, of course, but because I know there's a few drives we've had on the show. Sunshine, we'll tell you. Eldor's you like,
Yeah.
but of course Knoxville being what it is, and with the national stuff, of course you have to have the emphasis. Anytime you can get on that place, you got to go and get the laps and get ready for August. But I'm just curious, is it, if Knoxville wasn't what the premier and race of the year, would you still say that that's your favorite place?
Um, I would, from the challenge aspect.
There you go. Okay.
I would, from the challenge aspect. Obviously, the Nationals is the Nationals because of the race itself, of course, and the prestige of that, but everything that also happens around it, all the noise, all the hype, all the people, the opportunity to put up a really big week is what makes the Nationals the Nationals. The track side of it is, to answer your question, Knoxville is the toughest racetrack I think I've ever been on, in terms of having success or being able to put together a complete 25, 30 laps. and a really, really good performance. One of those where you leave the 30 laps and you're like, man, I nailed that. Like I was just a perfect race. And like, that's the hardest place to do that. In fact, I don't think I've ever had that there. It's such a technical racetrack, and your car it's extremely important to have a balanced race car at Knoxville. I've been there in some really good stuff, and I've been there in some not so great stuff, and it's a massive difference. And time wise on the clock, it's an even bigger one. I mean,
Right.
it's just tough. So Knoxville would still be Knoxville without the Nationals. I'm glad the Nationals are there, because the combination of everything I said about the things outside of the track, along with the challenge of the racetrack and what it takes to be successful, is what makes that event so huge.
Well, you're going to be there a lot because there's like 7 races on the schedule on the Outlaw Tour. So I don't think, and plus, I'm sure when they're not going on a Saturday night, you're going to sweep in there as well. So it's been known that the Marshall teams made Knoxville a focus. Yeah. So I think that's good for you.
Yeah. Well, and obviously, getting to go to
and
Knoxville.
He loves it,
I do.
way.
Yeah. We talk about Knoxville all the time on here, but it's hard not to, right? I enjoy going every year for all the outside stuff, right? It's a lot of fun for me to get to hang out as a race fan. But one of my favorite things is, sitting up there in the turn 2 suites and watching you guys try to manipulate the racetrack, right? And how it's so ever changing. It's so weird about that place because, although this year, Tim's runs away running the curb, it does not normally like that, but how technical it is to run the bottom, how you have to enter the corners so different on both ends, just because of they're way different, right? And I think you're exactly right. I think that's what makes Knoxville so great. Because it's not easy by any means. Now, none of these racetracks we go to by any means are easy, but the different things you have to do at the speeds you're going at that place is what makes it extremely tough, and dealing with air and all these different variables throughout the night. It's what I love about it is you got to see a lot of shit. That's out in front of you. You got to see the racetrack moving and changing. And I think, obviously that's why the fans love it, but it's exactly why the racers love it, right? Because it's, we do this, it's a challenge, and that racetrack is demanding for every lap. You cannot take one corner off there or it'll reach out and grab you.
That's exactly what I was going to follow that with, was it's a place that you cannot take a break. You can't calm down and just take a corner off. Like it'll jump out and bite you. And in the time, one of the most impressive things to me about the place is the amount of time that you can make up. If you're clicking off good laps and you get in a good rhythm, and you got a guy that's, half a straightaway or straightaway ahead, and he makes just one mistake, I mean, you can eat him up, and vice versa. You can be the guy that makes a mistake, and you didn't realize that guy came from 15 car lengths back, but like within half a lap, he's pushing you around the racetrack and putting you away. It's just a place that is just relentless. You just cannot take a lap off. And if your car isn't handling right, you can't hide. You are hung out to dry.
Yeah. Well, and you see it too with a lot of guys. Obviously there's a lot of national touring guys that go in there with high expectations every year, and you'll see guys that are just a little bit off, and that being that little bit off, it just is maximized at Knoxville, right? If you don't time in good and all these things, and you get shuffled back, and next thing you know, you're in a B main or a C main or whatever it may be, it just happens fast. And those guys, you don't see anybody figure it out over the week, right? You don't really see a guy that ends up in Hard Knocks night that had a struggle on his prelim night just figure it out and drive through the field. It's a rarity there. And, I think what's so impressive about all that, there's so many of you guys that are so talented, right, there in the sprint car world, and you watch all of that, and I think getting to see that firsthand is what makes it so special. But it's so, that's what makes Knoxville is great, because, dude, I mean, truly, it's just fucking hard, right? I mean, that's just the thing, you know. I mean,
It starts with the pill draw.
yeah, you know, and like I've been fortunate, you know, being around Donnie there, and obviously he's great at that place. But when he goes there and struggles on certain things, it's like that's how you know it's as difficult as it can be, because you don't just drive up through there. It's just not realistic to do. And like I said, the way you guys make it look as easy as you do, sometimes it's damn impressive.
No, I mean, I appreciate that, because there's a lot of times that that I sit back and watch some guys run around there, and it's like, that looks so simple. And it's just not. Like, they're just making this look effortless, and I'm in there working my what off to try to just piece together 2 qualifying laps just to get in the conversation. And to touch on the impressive stuff that, like, Donnie, for instance, his track record there, and just the last couple years, watching him not have the seasons that he wants to have, but somehow, some way, he still shows up at that place and can figure out a way to be competitive. And that part's really impressive. And there's a handful of guys that seem to just have the place figured out. And I don't know how long it takes or what it takes, but that's high on, I think, any sprint car driver's priority list, is how can I get to that level at Knoxville? What do I have to give up to be at that level just at Knoxville? I think there's a lot of people that would maybe give up a little something here and there just to try to be just a little bit better when it comes to nationals.
Yeah.
You know, the one thing that I've always said about Donnie, watch him when the bottom is right. And watching Donnie's shots run the bottom at Knoxville is like poetry.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You don't realize. I still think it's funny when we had him on the show when he says greatest the best nationals is the one you remember the most. When Gordy asked him, he says, "Oh, the night that I got 2 trophies, when I won the B and the A."
Yeah, I won them both. Yeah,
you know, and we were like,
well, you know, and it's so funny because I did the podcast probably a month or so ago. I was in Fargo with him, and I'm in his office, and it's all these Knoxville trophies, right? And it's like, it's unbelievable. And there's shit just, there's trophies everywhere that's just for miles, but all his Knoxville trophies are sitting there, and I'm
like
looking.
The Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah,
it's like there's more trophies than his garage.
So
there's a Hall of Fame.
I look over, and I'm like, well, that's a B main trophy, and I'm just not registering it. And then it was like, whatever, your 2003, maybe, I think is what it was. And then the next trophy was 2003 A main feature winner. I'm like, Jesus, like, that is impressive. And so then I actually brought it up to him that night, and we turned it on, went searched it on YouTube and watched it, and I'm like, how in the hell do you manage to do this and make it look so easy? And the crazy part for him is, like, he ran second like 5 or 6 times as well. Yeah. It's, like, he was a couple car lengths away from winning a few more. He could be a 15-time Knoxville champion at this point. It's spectacular. And, for me, it's been really cool to get to hang out with him just in general, because he's like the ultimate competitor. You wouldn't, I get to see a different side of him, but when you're at the racetrack with him and seeing how he operates, it makes, I've said it a million times, but it makes so much sense why he's so successful in everything that he's done, because he's so diligent in his work, in what he's doing, how he goes about his business, how he carries himself, obviously he's obviously a lot of guys look up to him. I think he's a great mentor for a lot, but it's been fun to kind of see all that, and now he's kind of ever changing into this grandpa, and he's way more loose about different things, and it's a lot of fun, but it's I don't know. It's just cool to kind of see that and get to enjoy some of his career with him.
Yeah, that's you probably get to experience kind of the best of both worlds, right? Get to cheer him on as the elite, legendary competitor, but also, grandpa as well to your baby. So,
well, I stood in Victor Lane at Knoxville twice. I did it once for the Knoxville Nationals, and he won it in 22, and then he won the prelim the next night when we had Eloise there. She was like 2 months old, and he wins that one. And I'm like, that's what I told him after. I'm like, I'm just up here just get my picture made, so you gotta run good.
That's cool. Now, some of the most, like, on the Donnie topic, one thing that came to mind when you were talking there is when he's able to close in, like on the closing topic, some of those last lap ditch efforts when he was, in second and like almost got it, but he was half a straightaway off a two back and like would fully hero 3 and 4, like locked on the bottom. Like fans don't understand like how that works and what that takes to be able to hit it like that. You've seen Larson do it once or twice, but like Donnie, like he'll just grab a whole nother gear and then as a fan, I'm like, or as a driver watching as a fan, understanding what it's like, why can't you do that every lap? If you do that every lap, you'd lap the field.
Dude, right. Well,
pull it out sometimes, and it's just
so
insane.
It's so damn impressive too. Like you see that, like you said, at the end of a race, when your tires are as used up as they can be, when the bottom is as far down as it's been, and then he runs off in there and just absolutely sticks it, and you're just like, dude, that is it. It is. It's like poetry in motion, you know. And it is so cool. And yeah, obviously I watch every lap of his. Right, when he's out there, it doesn't matter where he's running, I'm watching him. But he's one of the only guys that can run the middle of the racetrack anywhere he goes. Somehow he finds a way to make it work, and I think that's what's so crazy, right? Because you hear all the stuff about the Ford program that he went through, and he's got stuff happening all over, but yet there's only like him, and I don't even know if anybody else can run the Donnie line, right? Like not the way he does it. So it's really cool to see that. He's pretty fired up for this year. He was pumped when we had him on the show. So I've been on him. I'm like, you got to get back to Victory Lane now because you got another granddaughter. So she's going to need to get in Victory Lane, and so we're kind of on him about that. But it's fun for me because then I get to be more of a race fan at some of this stuff and going in different places. So it's that's why I love going to Knoxville. I'm like, hell yeah, I get to hang out with Big Don the whole week and act like I'm doing something. And just walk around in my 15 shirt. So yeah, I don't know, it's good.
Spencer, real quick too, I wanted to talk about, since the family basically didn't have this racing tree, what made you want to be a race car driver?
Gordy, I don't know if you know, like you'll probably like this. My grandparents are from Chatsworth, Illinois, which is...
Man, I was getting ready to bring up Fairbury here in a little bit. I was going to Fairbury here before long. So go ahead.
That was my first encounter with any real up close and personal form of motorsports. My grandparents, my dad grew up in Chatsworth. So we'd go over there a couple times through the summer, sometimes during harvest, and would go over Saturday nights. And my parents tell stories of, times before I could remember, me being 2 years old, just sitting on the edge of my seat, just glued to the track and watching cars go around, and then going back to the house and building a track in the driveway, making race car noises. It's just, I don't know, something about it just drew me in from a very early age. And that's what I was committed to wanting to do. And when you'd sit around in elementary school and the teachers would be like, okay, career day, like, what do you want to be? And everyone's like, oh, I want to be a baseball player and a football player. And mine was, I'm a race car driver. Like, no doubt. Like, that's what I want to do. And it's just kind of wild to now look back at some old pictures and just see kind of how it all came together, and it went by really fast. There's a lot of days I wish I could go back and relive a good amount of it, but just feel blessed and very fortunate to be here, be a race car driver, and get to work with a lot of incredible people, and have built a lot of really, really great relationships with a lot of good people along the way.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the coolest part, right? And I mean, I know those younger days, right, when you just start racing, and, I think I started when I was 5, right? And so I've got memories as far back as I can think, but, going up through the ranks, like Nick Hoffman and Zach Dahm, right? Like, we grew up racing quarter midgets together when we were 6, 7, 8 years old. And, we're all chasing that same dream, and, we want to be race car drivers. And yet here we are 20 plus years later, and we're all doing it together on national levels. And, you're exactly right when it's like, man, you wish you could go back and relive some of that, because like we didn't realize how good you actually have it when you're, not having to pay for anything. You have no responsibilities except going to the racetrack and seeing your friends and all that. And the only thing you were worried about was like where your buddies were going to be when you were done racing and all that. And it's just cool because, when you go through this entire your career, right? Like, I mean, you got so much ahead of you, but it's like you meet so many people along the way, and you take so many different steps, and a lot of them end up being the wrong one, and you got to kind of rebuild and go the next way. It's good to look back and realize how fun those moments are, because it's why we do it, right? Like, yeah, we want to win races because we want to make money and all that, but at the end of the day, all of us. If you told us we were racing for $1, we're not going to race, any less hard than we do now. And that's what's so cool about it, because that's all instilled when you're younger, right? Like you telling a story about you couldn't help yourself, right? You just were glued to it. And I think that's how we, a lot of us feel, right? We just went to a racetrack one time and smelled the fuel in the air and got dirt on our hats and up our nose and in our shoes. And next thing you know, you're addicted to it, right? And it's what drives us every day, right? Because, I mean, I'm sure there's been plenty of times when you've been down, I know I've done it, that you think back to those moments and realize how much you truly just have a passion for it and love it. And that's kind of what picks you back up and keeps you moving along.
Yeah, it's the idea that you're living your childhood dream, right? And as the years progress, as you grow up and gain responsibilities, realize that there's people relying on you. It loses every once in a while. It'll lose some of its like little kid sparkle, but that's still in there. Like it's still deep down in there. We're all kids at heart. We all just want to go fast and make loud noises. And it's to get to do it is really special. And then what's even more special is the fact that, my family, a lot of these families throw everything wayside and just come out and support you. Audrey, my wife, also not from racing. She's from a racing town, Belleville, Kansas, but did not know what a sprint car midget was when we met at the track, because she was there for the fair and we just happened to meet. And so two individuals that come from great families, grounded, but I see the sparkle in her eye now a little bit when we go to these places, and she's cheering on. If I'm not racing, she's locked onto the TV watching, cheering someone else on that she's friends with or friends with their wife. And it's just cool. It's an industry, it's a sport that gives you that special feeling. There's, the greatest moments in sports history type of feeling, like watching, the Jason Johnson, we were talking about today at the shop, the Jason Johnson Donnie Schatz battle. Like that's one of those moments that will go down in history. Like there's parts of the sport and things that happen within the sport that just stick with you forever and give you that special, butterflies in your tummy type of feeling.
Yeah. Well, and nobody will ever forget that interview, right? I mean, no. For forever. And those moments are what build the sport, right? And keep everybody coming back. And you're exactly right. It's just the feeling you get when it's re-sparked in any way is just like you can't explain it to anybody that maybe doesn't quite understand it. It's just something you've worked for your whole life, and you just truly enjoy it and have passion for it.
Yeah, and once you experience that, you're chasing that, time and time again. Richard and Jennifer, right? Very, very involved with that program, with the JGR team. And when they won that race, they were in the thick of it. Like to get to have that feeling that they got to experience that night I would pay a lot of money to get to experience that. Like that's just, it's such a cool thing going back and watching the video of the post-race stuff and just the excitement, the tears, the thrill, and just to know like they're experiencing something that a lot of us have never gotten to experience, and we're all chasing that.
Yeah. What's amazing is that's the picture in the suite at Knoxville is Richard in Victory Lane with Jason. Yeah. And the jubilation with the son Ryan right there too. I mean, it's you don't realize it because you guys are in it, of how that's what you want, that's what you work for. And you're going to experience that, Spencer. I have no doubt. You're going to experience these things. And real quick, though, childhood hero coming through, who's the guy that you love watching race?
Mine would have to be Brian Clausen, probably. Being an Indiana kid and being from Noblesville, I grew up quarter midgets, micros, midgets, and cars. So when I was in that micro phase, I remember we started going to a lot of dirt races around for Indiana Midget Week, Sprint Week, a lot of USAC stuff, along with still going to Fairbury when we're over there, but became a lot more involved as a fan in the Indiana scene. And no one better at that time than Brian Clausen. Just absolutely would take guys to school and put on a show, and then to think 2 years, 3 years after that, getting to actually race for them or with them in their program, and getting to learn alongside Brian. He was a mentor prior to that experience, but especially when I was there, it quickly shifted as like I want to be like Brian, and everything he did I wanted to do. So to kind of, it's a shame what happened to him, but he had such a massive impact on the sport and an impact on me that a lot of the things I do today are kind of based on me watching him navigate whatever process I'm in. I've watched him try to navigate through that as well, and to be like Brian.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's great. I tell you what, that was one of the things, obviously Brian ran a lot at Tri-City. I got to watch a ton of laps of him and going to the Chili Bowls and watching him and all that. But one of the things about Brian is how humble he was, even in all of his victories and all these things. He accomplished so much in just a short amount of time. But the humility he had and the way he carried himself when he did it, and you could just see, you look at like Joe Dueling, right? I've known Joe Dueling a long time. He thought of Brian as a son, and seeing how those people would light up around him, when he was winning these races, he'd get out and he'd just have this big smile. It just, it seemed like he made everybody around him better, it's a rarity. That's a rare thing for people to do, to one, have that much success, be as humble as you can be about it, but also to kind of take these people around you, right? We've heard, you're probably the 50th race car driver I've heard that's talked about Brian in that way, that said, he was a great mentor, he was great to talk to, a great friend, and, obviously we all dearly miss him, but you're exactly right. He left a lasting impact on a lot of guys, and, it was great while we had him here, for sure. We talked about this last week. I felt like with him and obviously then Kevin's injury. We were kind of robbed of a lot of great Chili Bowls, unfortunately. Yeah. But the moments that they still created. You think about when he won his Chili Bowl, that the smile you couldn't rip off his face, is something I'll always remember. And I got to talk to him a few times at Tri-City, and he didn't matter if you knew him or not. He just was a great person and obviously a great race car driver.
When I went to when McCready and Clausen were running NASCAR that year, it was like they were exiled from everybody else. They were like, those are the two dirt guys, stay away from us. And I'm at Gateway, and I'm going in there. I'm getting my garage pass and everything else. Everybody knows Timmy and I are great friends. And I go in there, and I go in the garage area, and there's two guys sitting by themselves. I'm like thinking about, where am I going to find these guys at? You know what I mean? I go in the garage area at Gateway, and there's Brian sitting in the tire, and Timmy's right next to him. And I'm like looking at both of these guys, and I wish I could have had a camera of the two of them together.
Yeah.
Because it was a priceless moment for me. Because I'm looking at both of them, and they're both like going, yeah, we know we shouldn't be here. And believe me, they let us know that they don't really want us here. You know what I mean? So, and I actually was glad to see when that season came to an end to go back, both of them go back to their roots and where they're happy. Yeah. And because I don't know, when I think about Brian all the time, he was so talented, and we got robbed of that. But the big thing is the personality.
Yeah. Sure.
Everything was, he was such a gentleman.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell you what, I saw him do one of the most badass things I've ever seen in a race car in my life. So the Gold Crown we used to have at Tri-City, it shipped a brake rotor off like halfway. He's leading this race, and I watched it go flying, and I'm like, well, yeah, that's not going to last very long. He proceeded to run the next 15 laps on the fence with no brakes, and he run fourth behind Larson, Rico, and I think Brad Kuhn, and was right there with him the whole time. And I'll never forget it because, running the fence at our place is not an easy task by any means. And I watched him do it with no brakes, and I'm just like, this is one of the just most badass things I've ever seen in my life. And, made it look so effortless. It was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, the talent level was insane. The fierce competitor that he was that's what always really took me back was just his presence that he would have, obviously as a young kid. It's kind of the same scenario a little bit with Donnie, right? Like flips a switch when he shows up, and it's like it is all business, and he is there to whoop some ass. Like that's the only reason he's coming is to win. And Brian had that. But then getting to see kind of the flip side, his goofy side a little bit too, like spending time in his house and cooking up tacos and just kind of BSing was cool. But his ability to flip that switch and go into this like mania, that kind of Mamba mentality, that maniac mentality of just like locked in is one of the things that probably sticks with me the most was his ability to do that. And I think every great athlete, A-list athlete does that. They all have that ability to flip that switch. And it's hard to do sometimes because you are there. Some of these events are long, drawn out, you're tired, but his ability to always show up and give that 110% was impressive. And I'll share a story that kind of relates to that. Is we were at Kokomo, and I can't remember if it was like the Kokomo Grand Prix, the April show, or if it was Midget Week, but it was a USAC show. All the hitters were there. Bell, Thorson, I don't know if Larson was there that year, but just so happened Brian, along with all those guys, were in my heat race, and I caught the invert. I was starting on the pole, and I was shaking in my britches. I was scared because I'm like, it's on the fence. These guys are right behind me, and it was my first year with Clausen. And take the green, get off. I slide to the top, take the lead, and feel pretty good about what I was doing. And then about halfway through, just past halfway of the heat race, Brian had caught me, and he was starting to slide me. And first one, he swung, and I was able to drive around it. Second one, he's swung bigger and like wasn't really giving me a lane. Like he was running me hard, and we kind of battled for a couple laps, and I was able to somehow hold it off. And at that point, highlight of my career, like the coolest thing I'd ever done, knowing like Bell's back there, Tanner was, kicking ass in USAC at that time. I just battled off like my boss and my hero, and can't wait to get out of the car for me to run over and him to tell me, good job and all that stuff. He wouldn't look at me for the rest of the weekend. He was he was like so locked in on it it took me back, but looking at it now, it's like, that's the guy he was. Like, he didn't want to lose that. He didn't want to give me that chance of feeling like I can beat him. Like it was, he set the tone quick, and I'm like, all right, that's where we stand. Business.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. It got cut off right here. That's where we draw the line. So, well, and that's, dude, you're right though, that if you want to be at the very tip top, you have to be cutthroat, right? That's just the nature of the business. And those guys that win those races, they always find a way to close them out. That's them. They just have that killer instinct, and there's nothing that's going to stop them from getting to what they want. And yeah, that's awesome, because I can only imagine for you what that would feel like. You're like jacked up, have a great moment, and you're getting out and thinking everything's going to be kosher and everybody's great, and then he's just like, nope.
He just looked right over the top of me, and I'm like,
yeah, no shit.
I was beside myself.
He never gave you that moment.
Yeah.
You know, one thing too that we always like to ask, because the people at home always, you know, they always ask us certain things about the race car drivers, you know, and Gordy and I try to get a little bit, you know, some stuff that maybe people don't know. We always like to ask a couple of simple questions, and we need to know kind of what's on your playlist, what's Spencer Bayston listening to going down the road, and then talk a little bit also, what are we eating? What's your go-to meal?
Music wise, I mean, obviously we have plenty of time to listen to music driving down the road. So I've got a pretty massive variety, everything from classic rock, a little bit of country, the old school country. I'm not a big like new country fan. Some of that 90s, even some of the early 2000s and older, even country stuff. Hip hop if I'm in the right mood or if I'm trying to stay awake, something a little more upbeat. Yeah, if I'm going to the gym, I'm on some like hard rock type stuff or some rap, hip hop rap. If I'm cruising, I want some easy listening. I'll do a lot more classic rock stuff like 80s, like Eagles and Leonard Skinner and that kind of music probably.
I like it.
What about eat? What are we eating?
Yeah, food wise, well, at 1 a.m, there's usually not a lot of options, so it usually settles with a fast food cheeseburger. But if we're at home, I like grilling. I like grilling up some steaks, some baked potatoes. Audrey makes a mean, like a loaded baked potato. She's whipped up some other pretty good dishes, chicken parm, like a good Italian chicken parm.
There you go.
That's good stuff. Something to fill my stomach.
I convinced Savannah a couple weeks ago to make chicken parm. We had I think it was like maybe it was Christmas dinner or something like that. She's like, we need to make something different. I was like, dude, some chicken parm would be good. And dude, I'm telling you, she crushed it. Donnie flew in for Christmas. We had our whole family there. It was super nice. And I felt like the kid that just couldn't get up from the table. I just kept going and getting more and just kept smashing it. And then the best thing, she made so much there was like 2 full leftover containers of it. So I had chicken parm for like 3 days. I was like, I just was stoked. I was like, this is as good as it gets right here.
Yeah.
So you're playing a lot of golf on the road?
When we can. I mean, there's some tournaments and stuff that we always try to look forward to, like that Houston's week. They always have a pretty cool tournament. Knoxville, we'd go over to Boss Landon and play in one of their tournaments over there. Yeah, if we're ever in a town that's close to a golf course so we can Uber over or borrow a truck, like when we did the motorhome things, we played a good amount. And then I've got a course here at home that I play at mostly.
Is that Trophy Club? The course by you?
Yeah, that Trophy Club's up in
That's one of the most underrated golf courses around. It's a link style golf course, and the reason I know about it is I was playing at the Brickyard. And we were playing at the Brickyard, and it was Todd and I were in for a Motley Crue concert, and so we're playing at the Brickyard, and these guys are playing, going, man, why spend the money here? The course just up the road here is twice the golf course and half the money. You guys got to play. And of course, we've always played the Brickyard, so we're like, whatever, these guys don't know. And we went there, and it's a nice little track that nobody knows about.
Yeah, super quiet. Can always get a tee time. Pretty affordable for what you get.
Absolutely.
It's a tough course, really tough course.
Yeah, it's a link style. It's got, the greens are very quick there. I remember it's a nice little track, and but no, I mean I'm excited about this guy for this year.
Yeah.
I think you and Donnie bring the Outlaws to me. They're bringing a lot to the table this year with seeing what Donnie does with the new rides, seeing what Spencer's going to do. There's a lot of excitement, man, on the Outlaw Tour this year.
No, for sure. I think it's going to be. It's like I said, it's going to be really good, and obviously for you got a lot in your corner, a lot of people in your corner, and a lot of great things going. And we obviously wish you nothing but success. Absolutely. And it's gonna be cool to see. I think I'm gonna be down at Volusia the sprint car week. I'm gonna come down. I try to convince Donnie to pick me up on the way, but he's got to go a couple days early for flight training. So I don't think I can escape for an entire week. I don't think Savannah would let me get away with that one. But yeah. So no, we just dude, for one, appreciate you coming on the show.
Yes.
Best of luck this year. We're rooting for you here, and it's going to be a great year for you.
What do you got going on real quick with you changed your hair a little bit?
Yeah, he's got the flow.
Get a little bit of the flow going like Gordy's got going on.
I'm inspired. I'm inspired by Gordy, yeah.
Yeah. Now, hey, it looks good.
I appreciate that. Yeah. The other stuff that you got going on here, I can't do that. I'm not able.
You can borrow some if you want, because mine it grows so fast. Doesn't matter. Somebody tagged me the other day in like 3 different things. Somebody tagged me one. It was Ryan Blaney during the NASCAR thing, and they were like, "Oh, look, I didn't know Gordy Gundaker was in NASCAR now." And then there was somebody on Flow during the Chili Bowl, just had a big mustache and a mullet, and then they're like, "Oh, Gordy's at the." I'm like, Jesus, but yeah, I'm telling you, this thing here, it's great. Don't get me wrong, but dude, it's a lot of work. I can tell you. But the problem I got now is everybody loves it. So, I can't shave it off.
Kids aren't going to recognize you if you come in clean shaved buzz cut.
My daughter would be like, "What the hell?" I guarantee it. Yeah.
It was kind of like Keith Coons when he shaved the beard. Remember the grandkids didn't even know who he was.
I know it. Yeah. If things go bad for long enough, I might just stress shave it off sometime, but I don't foresee it happening. I had some kid at the Dome that came up this past year that he said, "I grew my hair out all year so I could have a mullet just like you." And I was like, "You know what? Can't shave. I can't ever cut it off now."
At that point, you can't.
Yeah. No. So, but like I said, man, we appreciate you coming on, and good luck this year, and we wish you nothing but the best.
Good luck with the football game.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
I think I think they got it too. I just don't think Miami has. I think Indiana's offense is just that quarterback's just. I think they're going
to boat race him.
Mendoza's he's incredible.
Yeah. Hopefully it's a game. I don't think any Indiana fan. I'm not like a diehard Indiana fan. I'm supporting them because obviously it's hometown kind of situation. But there's a lot of fans that think it's not even going to be a football game, which we'll see. They have had a tough time finding a competitor so far this season. So we'll see what happens.
It's been crazy.
Yeah. No. So all right, man. Like I said, we appreciate it. Good luck this year, and we'll hopefully we'll have you back on the show celebrating the big win. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me on. We had a good time.
First of all, we just had a great guest. Spencer Bayston was incredible. Yeah. Really got to know a lot about this kid. And again, people at home, I think this kid is going to do what we think he's going to do. I really believe it. And I know, Gordy, both of you and I are rooting for him. And while we talked about, first of all, he made the show at the Chili Bowl. And my partner here, by the way, folks, he predicted Emerson Axon to win the Chili Bowl.
I did.
And I said we were going to have a first-time winner, but he actually he called it. And kudos to him. I bow.
Yeah, that's right.
It was great. I'm going to let you talk a little bit about the Chili Bowl a little bit. In record car count, 400. The racing each night was tremendous. The track was great almost every time guys went out on the racetrack.
Yeah. No, it was really good, and it was different every night. I think that's what made it so good is it wasn't like, okay, you just got the same thing. Okay, hey, it's getting first 10 laps in the bottom, and then it's going to move to the top. It was not that. And, obviously the Saturday night feature was a banger. A lot happening. And obviously nobody expected Larson to get upside down there, but nobody expected him to start on the pole and not win that race. I don't think there was many people that would have chose against him had you known he was going to start on the pole. But Emerson did just a phenomenal job because, listen, you got the best of the best breathing down your neck, and I would say he maybe made 2 mistakes. I feel like, and the one was the one he ended up blocking off that ended up landing Justin Grant, on his lid. And there was a lot of guys in there that were doing a lot of moving and things were happening. And so, the Chili Bowl just continues to grow. Obviously, for one, you get over 400 entries, but just the magnitude of this race and the show these guys put on is just second to none. And for Emerson, before I say Emerson, the Swindell group
incredible
was unbelievable, right? And we talked about that on the show. I think one of the things I said is having 4 cars there for Kevin to gain information from was dangerous for everybody. I think they all knew that, right? You heard Larson and Bell both talking about the Swindells and all that, the Swindell group, and clearly you could see it, right? I mean, you had 3 guys on the podium throughout the week. Kyle Cummins gets in the race on Saturday night. Spectacular. But back to Emerson, dude, I got to watch Emerson race when he was at Millbridge, racing mini sprints or non-wing sprints and all this stuff. And dude, he's just I said it before, but he's just one of those guys that makes speed in areas other guys don't, right? And CV was being smart, and he wasn't going to do anything stupid to jeopardize kind of that fact that they were running 1-2, not early in the race. When it got late, listen, CV lit the wick and shit was getting real in a hurry. And for Emerson to have them guys breathing down your neck, you're dealing with all these restarts and all that, and to never give up the lead.
He kept his composure.
That was what I think was most impressive at the end of the day, because any racer will tell you leading any race is tough. Leading the very big ones like that, you look at all the guys, you don't see guys just lead at that many laps, and especially while getting pressured and be able to sustain it the entire time. And it was an awesome race. It was an awesome week of racing. A lot of guys made a name for themselves. I feel like this week, this Jet Barnes will now be a household name. He'll be a household name.
Probably Keith Kunz Racing for 2026.
Yeah. And dude, that kid is a rock star. I mean, to watch him wheel like he did was, damn impressive, because there are, I don't know many kids at that age that are, able to tie their own shoes, and he's out here racing with the absolute best and was running top 10 until he about ballparked that thing. And
then it's like Jordan Swindell's like his mom.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like it's just crazy the way they're joined at the hip.
It was cool to see that. We need young guys, right? We always need them. He's going to be great for the sport. You can already tell, because he's got a great name, right? Jet. Oh. I mean, his name's Jet, so he's doing good. And so it's just, you love seeing stuff like that. I felt really bad for Blake Hahn.
I did too.
It stalls the motor. I don't, that just sucks. That sucks for him. Great for him to get the prelim win. I can only imagine what that was like for Emmett. For
the entire Hahn family.
Yeah, and to see that happen, you could see the emotion and all that coming out. But it was really cool, and I wish I would have got to be there, in person to kind of see that and be part of it. But they just continue to do a great job promoting that event. All the stuff they do on Flow, all the things they're able to do, the post race show, and having Sonny on there. Yeah. I thought that was great. It's always good to have good insight during those races. They do the racers broadcast and just a lot of great things about that event that they continue to do well, and why it continues to grow.
I think one of the funniest things was when Hank Davis was in the press conference, and he says, "I don't know about all of you tonight, but I'm probably going to head over, to the bar and have a cocktail." He goes, "But the kid next to me is probably going to Chuck E. Cheese."
Yeah,
and that's what I love about the Chili Bowl. And we got to see it, and I think even those guys, they realized that Jet Barnes was not a lap car.
No.
On his preliminary night, and was moving forward. And the other thing, Kevin's cars, I think it's like Spencer, you guys touched base on a little bit, the way the way they they have an attitude.
Yes.
A different attitude than the other cars in the building, which is crazy because it's the only time you're going to see them.
Yep.
And so I think that was kind of one of the other things I keep going, okay, this guy, Kevin, brings in, like you said before, he's been great when he brings one car, yet alone 4.
Yeah.
So, and you look at the arsenal of drivers he had, and I'm sure he even had to think, I got this Barnes kid, whatever, but at the same time, that kid did nothing but let the others know what kind of car that they were going to have.
Absolutely. 100%. And, you give him all week to build a notebook with 4 drivers, and you allow CV to race on Friday night when he doesn't need any more help, and yet he gets it all. And I would, like I said, I mean, CV was my pick. Him and Emerson were my guys. That's who I was really thinking. And I really thought when CV got gone, I thought he was going to be able to just kind of get up to Emerson and probably slide him and get by him, and he couldn't do it. I know he was trying, but those cars handled the cushion so much better than anybody else's. You could watch it, just like Spencer said when we had him on. Those things did not pop the left rear up like the rest of the guys did. A lot of guys, they get against the curb, and as soon as they would, it would either rip the front end off the ground or it'd pick the left rear up and kind of try to bike up, and they did not do that. They kind of settled in and just nestled back down. They were able to get down the straightaway, and it was very impressive what Kevin was able to do with all 4 of those guys, locking all of them in. I mean, you bring 4 cars to the Chili Bowl and you get all 4 of them in. There's not many times.
Right, especially when you got Keith Kuntz, who said on our show, thought he had one of the most talented lineups that he was bringing.
Yeah.
And only one
and
car
only got one. Yeah.
Made it. Cannon McIntosh made it to the future.
And he didn't make it.
Don't get me wrong.
And he didn't make any friends either.
Gavin Miller was incredible.
Oh, man. Yeah.
It's a shame. And hopefully he's okay.
Yeah.
Because I understand that they went to the hospital later for observations. Gavin did an incredible job. He was making some noise, and he made some noise.
Yes.
And I want to get back to the McIntosh situation. And we hear it time and time again of being cannonballed.
Yeah.
And Shane Golobic pretty much let you know. And Shane Golobic probably is the most classiest, easiest going guys in the pit area.
Yeah.
This is a guy that could have took Kyle Larson out the year before, racing him for the checkers, and says, first of all, I don't race that way, and I'm definitely not going to race him that way.
Yeah.
And for that to happen the way it's happened, and like you said, it isn't the first time you hear the different ones. Did you have, just in going into that, we had another one last night.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you talk about it because you got that. We got another cannonball incident, with Turbo and JD.
Yeah. The Cannon deal
at Casa Grande. So let's make sure
the Cannon deal there. To me, is just blatant no respect for the guys racing around you. There's a line in which you draw that's, I'm throwing a slider, maybe it's a test slider, or I know maybe not clear, but there's 15 to go, and I'm just, maybe I'm going to get his front bumper, or he's going to have to lift. When you just flat out don't give a guy an option and just absolutely wreck him, that to me just kind of unfortunately tells you what everybody else knows, right? The Cannon does not race with respect. That's just the truth, and it's nothing against him. I think if you asked him, he'd probably tell you that he doesn't really care one way or another. But when you're racing, you have enough control of your race car to understand where you're going to land, and if you really have a shot at clearing somebody or not. You well know it, especially somebody like Cannon, who's won as many races and stuff as he has. Just to ballpark somebody like that, it sucks. I hated for Shane, like you said, Shane's a great guy. Very, very smart, works on his stuff. You see him down there in
he prepared 5 race cars.
You see him down there in the Mattwood pit area, and he's working on all these cars, getting stuff ready. He respects his equipment. He tries to take care of it. And like I said, you get somebody like that just does not give a shit and just ballparks you. I mean, I would say, unfortunately, in the midget side of things, you don't see guys get that animated with each other for whatever reason. I don't really understand it. I would say if he would have, you almost wish he'd have done something like that to like a Shane Cottle, right? And seeing how that would have ended. I don't think it would have ended that well for Cannon.
Dave Darland.
Right. Take some of those guys. I think they would have had him by the throat pretty easily. I would say too, I think Cannon was probably lucky that thing didn't stall out right there behind Shane's car, because it about stalled. We might have seen a different ending to that. I think when Shane got out,
good point. I never thought of it that way.
When Shane got out, I think there might have been a few more fireworks than that if Cannon's race car is still sitting right there. I mean, Cannon would have been over there waving them guys on like, "Hey, hurry up and push me off!" But so
Shane held it better together than most would have.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have not even come close to what he did. They would have probably banned me from the Chili Bowl if it would have been. Now, granted, I'll never be in that situation like that with them, but I can promise you a lot of different race car drivers would have handled that situation in a way worse way for sure. But then we moved right into I would say the biggest topic of the entire weekend, right? Last night.
Dude, I'm still laughing because of JD parking the car behind the trailer and not let Turbo get into it.
And here's where, listen, there's a lot of armchair quarterbacks, you'd say, that want to tell everybody what JD should have done, what Turbo should have done, on the racetrack. And really to break it down, I guess, in a way, Turbo runs JD all the way down the racetrack on the start of the heat race, right? He runs him down. You're going into turn one. I don't know if Turbo thought he was just, JD was just going to let him keep shoving him down the racetrack. But, I mean, there was 50 foot between the wall and Turbo's car and where, at the flag stand. And JD absolutely turns right and he runs into Turbo, but he's got to make the corner going into one. And so obviously they disagreed on their opinions of what happened there. That was obviously what starts it. But right off the bat there, Turbo, I mean, don't really just run him down the racetrack. So JD's now pissed. Turbo, in his mind, thinks he was done wrong by JD kind of sweeping out and shit whipping him, and then you go down the backstretch, and this is the funny part to me. I read a bunch of these comments last night. We put it on the Dirt Parlor page. What was your guys' thoughts? And the amount of people that I read that said he should have just lifted or he could have got on the brakes and turned left. You guys are fucking idiots. Plain as day. Because if you've never drove one of these race cars and understand how fast they were going, listen, Casa Grande's fast, very fast.
Dude. And the other thing is, people were telling me that were actually there that even television really didn't give it justice, that it's still a little rough out there.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, when Donnie was here this past weekend, that's one thing he talked about. He said, man, that place is really, really fast. Like, they are carrying a ton of speed. So, JD's shooting down there into 3, and Turbo's a car length back behind him. And listen, I love Turbo, right? He's one of my buddies. He's a character. You do understand when you're racing with Turbo, you're not going to get an inch. That is one thing we all know. Turbo does not care. He makes it very obvious, and that's fine. If you're going to race, it's okay. I don't want to say it's okay, but you know what you're getting when you race with Turbo. And JD kind of tries to cut the slider down, the slider line away, and Turbo just launches it off in there. Well, there is a difference between sliding a guy and giving him the option and sliding a guy and going across the nose and not giving an option, right? And we saw option 2 there, right? The people that think, the JD could have just lifted and turned down, they had already both cut their angles off getting into 3. So they're both going to go across there and slide up either way. So JD can't just get on the brakes right there. For one, I don't even know if he really ever saw him before it was too late because, I don't know if he expected Turbo. I think once he kind of cut down, I don't think he expected Turbo to slide there. What a lot of people don't realize is that when he goes over the nose, it rips the right front flopper off this thing. So it rips the flopper off, it gets into the tire, and then obviously they end up in the loose stuff, and now JD has no air, and the dirt packs over him and all these things. But, it just, I don't know. It's hard to watch some of that stuff when these are two of the better guys we have, right? That are good racers that understand these things. And then listen, they have a long history of not really getting along, mind you. This goes back to Eldora. There's a lot of things that have, dream. Yes. And so, I wish, that's part of our sport now. The slide, kind of not clear sliders. That's been more of a thing, I would say, over the last 5 to 7 years. And some guys just don't give a shit if you don't like it, and that's fine. There's, a lot of guys they just don't race that way. They won't run you like that. And if they do, I would say it's more of most of the times it's something like that happens, it's probably more of a little bit of a mistake and a misjudgment. That was not, listen, he didn't give JD an option. And that's why JD was so mad. And then you get the theatrics after, which were absolutely awesome, mind you.
I'm telling you.
They were as great as it could be.
I was laughing my ass off. You were too. When I saw that the picture of the car.
Man. And you know what? And
part you gotta love the way JD handles it, right?
He just standing there with his arms crossed and kind of looking at him, and that was
his mannerisms are like classic, right?
Yes, and so it was really good. It was great TV, and I'll tell you what, I'll give the crews also a lot of kudos there, because nobody really got in the middle of it. They were allowed him. We see Lance Landers pop in there, and he's kind of mad. And
our sponsor Steve Martin was there, and I didn't even know it till today.
Yeah, and so there was a lot happening there, and it was. Listen, those two guys, they were both pissed. Turbo's obviously, JD's pissed. Turbo's kind of at that point, he wins the heat race and all is good. And unfortunately for Turbo, he says something right after the heat race on the interview, and then he goes out there for the redraw and tells him that he needs to iron his cape and says, whatever. And I know he had to shit when the 49 passed him. I know that for there's no. He wasn't even thinking it. And listen, I think he realized it pretty quickly, because JD did not give him much room either, right? And he was not going to. This is what drives the sport, though, right? This is now the things that are driving our sport. Now, for the entirety of 2026, every time Turbo and JD are at the same racetrack, that is going to be talked about, right? So controversy is good. The drama stuff is good. The problem where it starts to get bad and is that if these two tangle again somewhere, like in Eldora, and then 2 or 3 guys get caught up in this mess, that's where the line starts going, all right, well, what are we doing here? And as much as anybody, JD does not, you rarely see him in confrontations of running over guys or anything like that. And if he does, he's the first one to say, I screwed up. He's got no problem coming over telling people that. And, but it's just, you don't want this just to be a reoccurring thing. And it happens in the future with Bobby and Huddy. Bobby just flat out does not leave a lane and gives Huddy no option but to kind of get wiped out there. And luckily he was able to keep going. But, it's also hard when you're racing at high speeds like that, things happen a lot faster. And sometimes it's easy to misjudge by a little bit. I think Bobby knows better in that situation too. He, clearly said that in his interview after, but just a lot happening and a lot to unpack. And listen, it's also the beginning of the year. You got guys that are kind of antsy. And,
well, I think it's exciting.
It absolutely is. And it should be, right? It's like I said, it is great for the sport.
You were chuckling.
Oh, 100%. I was all over it. I was laughing my ass off. This was great for me. I got a lot of fire to give to a lot of people, right? Listen, I sent out plenty of text messages last night to numerous guys, and it creates great banter on social media. You see JD right away posting about it, Turbo's posting stuff, and that's what the racing fans want, right? They love this shit. They eat this up, and it's. I know Flo ate it up. I
saw the new Turbo shirt with the kryptonite.
Bam! Right away. Right away.
Come on.
That's the thing,
It
comes right out, and like I said, it is good for anything, right? Drama and controversy is great for any sport. And you just, you kind of hope that this settles in.
Yeah.
Maybe it gets wiped out. I don't know if it will because, listen, I've seen JD mad in my a few times. I promise you right now, I don't know if there's a scarier individual in the pit area than JD. If you really want to go, listen, he works on a ranch for one at home. Is very strong, and he ain't short, and you know what I mean. So like,
Right.
but I, listen. That's the other thing is these guys that run up there, they do not forget things. That's one of the things about guys in the sport is they keep a long list, and they will not forget. And obviously, like I said, there's been a few incidents over the last few years between them two, so it'll be interesting to see what happens.
The one thing about it too is after the races were over, I mean, let's talk about JD's run. I mean, dude, he had to come from the tail to be.
Dude was in the fucking fuel.
And then what he did in EA, and then from what I understand was after the races were over in the Tech, that they were looking at Bobby's right rear, and they didn't think that it was probably even going to go another 5 or 6. It was blistered pretty. It was pretty tore up, and they said that JD's tires looked like he could have gone another 20, 25 laps.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard, and that he was.
That's surprising the way you've spanking the shit out of that
my
thing.
gosh, dude, he was on a mission.
He was too. You knew all of a sudden when he popped into fourth, and that'll be Savannah. It only rings loud if it's Savannah. But when he got to fourth there, it was like, oh shit, now he's right behind Turbo.
When I saw it, I was definitely glued.
Yes.
And I know like everybody else was. It's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that was, it was a hell of a run by him. And it was a great week of a lot of different winners.
And Ricky kind of started off, which really surprised me because jumped in a car he normally doesn't drive.
Yeah.
And, and Daniel Adams, backup car, and wins the race. And then all during the week, it was kind of like we saw, and then, Donnie's nieces, both make the race last night.
That was awesome. Yeah, that was. I was just getting ready to say that.
That was very impressive.
Yeah, those two girls have very minimal experience in super late model competition, and to go to a place that's that fast, and then last night both drive their way into the feature there. Listen, the whole point of them going out there was getting laps, right? They're trying to get as many laps as they can and get comfortable, and they're trying to learn these race cars. And to watch them both do a really good job at learning all week, right? That's the whole point of going out there is learn and take in information. And you get to the final night and you both make the feature. Layla had made it on Wednesday. Then you get Amelia and Layla in there last night. They both did a really good job. And it was cool. It was really cool to see. Obviously, we were sitting at the house with Donnie watching it. And, they were, both, they're just learning and they're young and they've got so much to figure out. But to go down there and then that's a great confidence booster for them to make the final night and go home with something to talk about, right? And have something to build on throughout the year. So it was really cool. I'm super proud of them. They're both great girls. They're just most down to earth. They're super humbled. I mean, there's no, we've talked about it with Donnie. There's no shyness there. The fact that they are Donnie Schatz' nieces and he casts a big shadow, but they do a great job of carrying themselves correctly, doing the right things. And I'm excited to see where they continue to grow to. I think they're going to come race some in the Midwest this year, which I'm super excited for. So I can try to get to help them as much as I do. I'm try to text them and help as much as I can, or in any way possible. But they're not. They didn't pick an easy sport to jump into,
they did not.
But they do it with a good head on their shoulders, and I'm excited to see kind of how they transpire this year.
The other thing too is kudos to our sponsor, Jeff Hoker. Man, he is behind that event. We had Chris Kearns on the show last week and to talk about the Wild Wild West and with Matt Curl but Jeff Hoker, it definitely looked like Jeff was having a good time.
Oh yeah, you rarely ever see Jeff not having a good time.
But it looked like he was definitely.
They were having fun. I can promise you, there were many of beers drank behind that banner in the center of the racetrack, and Yeah, listen, Jeff, obviously sponsor of the show, sponsor of mine. But listen, he is one of just the best people I've ever got to know. He truly just cares about you if you get to know him at all, and clearly just gives so much to the sport. I mean, you look at how many race cars he's on, how many events he sponsors, how many events he promotes.
He loves it.
And we're lucky to have Jeff and Penny. Both of them. When we had Veda last week, they both texted me, checking in, asking how we were. Jeff called me while I was in the hospital still Thursday, just asking how everything was going. They don't miss anything. They're just the two of the best people in racing in general, and we're super proud, obviously, to have them as a part of the Dirt Parlor, and obviously I'm super thankful that he sponsored me as long as he has, and they're great. And that event just he's a huge part of it, and he loves being a part of it, and he shows it by what he's able to give to that event, and and they go out there and they enjoy it with all the racers, and they're hanging out. So really cool to see, and I'd like to go down there at some point. I need to for sure, but we'll see when it happens.
And the other thing I wanted to touch on, this morning it came out that Brian Shirley announced that he's going to the Lucas Oil Series, and of course, Brian's one of my best friends. I made sure I picked up the phone and called him. I really want to know why and dig into this a little bit. And he just flat out told me on the phone, it's like the deal is simple. He goes, running the Lucas Oil Series gives me more time to be at home. He said, right out of the gate, he goes, you want you to go to Volusia and race and then sit for 2 weeks. Well, guess what? Now I don't even have to go at all. And race to the first, till the 1st of February,
right?
Instead of being down there. And he goes, I started looking at just what's important to me, and what's really important to me is having a healthy schedule and at the supporting the sponsors and supporting the family stuff. But at the same time, I want to be home more.
Yeah.
And he goes, this is nothing, not a crack on the Outlaws or Lucas. Bottom line goes, the last 2 years I would have done this 2 years ago, but it made more sense. He goes, I was at home more racing on the Outlaw schedule the last 2 years. That's why I ran the deal, and that's why I've chose this year to go, because it geographically makes more sense to me this time. So I just wanted to make sure people understand it's not a bullshit deal. It isn't somebody throwing somebody under the fence. This is the bottom line. He gets to be at home more this year.
Yeah, and that's what you got to do. You got to make
you've been there.
Yeah, you got to make the best decision for yourself and for your race team, where you see the most success coming from, what makes sense as far as spending money and your budget. Listen, you budget these race teams out for the entire season, going, okay, we're going to drive X amount of miles on this tour, we're going to drive X amount of miles on this tour. What's it going to cost me to go here early? Blah blah blah, whatever it is, and that's the way these race teams have to be operated as a business, because that's what they are. And obviously Brian has a lot going on at home, a lot with his family, and he doesn't want to miss as much time as you can get at home. He's going to take it, and that's good on him.
The girls cheerleading. He's got cheerleading going on.
Right.
The boys in sports. He did wrestling this year, basketball. There's just a lot of things. And the other thing, you know this because you know Brian as well as anybody. He drives probably 90% of the miles that are on the highway. He's driving the truck.
Yeah.
And they don't have a full-time crew chief. He's pretty much the crew chief.
Yep.
So I think all those variables just add up, and he's been doing it long enough to know he doesn't have to prove shit to anybody.
No, not at all. And that's, I'll tell you what, them road miles, after racing all weekend and having to drive home, that shit wears on you. It really does. I can promise you. And so, you start looking at that going, all right, well, I'm going to drive 3,000 less miles maybe on this tour. That's a lot of driving time, and whatever it turns out to be. And listen, that's the way that, there's a lot of guys choosing different tours, doing different things, and it all comes down to what works best for you and your team, and that's what he sees fit. That's good on him. I mean, that's what you have to do, and obviously both tours are going to be very stacked, and so it's not like, oh, he's cherry picking, trying to go over here. Listen, there's none of that happening anywhere. everybody that's on these tours are top notch guys. The Outlaw Tour is going to be very tough this year when you look at it. With the addition of Turbo being in there, you get Nick again and Bobby and all. Overton. It's just a lot. There's a lot going on, and you're going to get JD hopping in and out of both of these series all over the place.
Which I think is exciting.
Yeah, because you just never know when Superman's going to show up, and so it's going to be great. And
Superman's going to be at some Hunt the Front races probably.
He'll be. You never know. No clue where he's going to be.
I think it's going to be great.
Yeah,
I think they'll like all that tune-up race always at Wheatland, before they show me.
Yeah,
I have a feeling you probably.
I don't want to see him there for that one, but I'm sure he'll be there. Come over. They'll come down and just take some money out of our pockets.
And again, he's another one. He has nothing to prove.
Right.
And whatever JD wants to do, man, I support it.
Right, for sure.
In discussion,
So,
Yep.
No, it's going to be a good year. I'm excited to kind of watch.
Kicks off this week.
This weekend,
Volusia. We go Volusia. Volusia kicks off. We got the World of Outlaw late models, and then we go right into the ASCS guys.
Yep.
The 360s the following week. You got who you looking at this week at Volusia, Gordo?
I think you're going to have 3 winners, 3 different winners. You're going to have Bobby, Nick, Chris Madden. 3 winners.
Okay. All right. And before we sign off tonight, I want to say congratulations to one of my best friends, and I love him like a brother. On behalf of, him and Savannah had the birth of their wonderful daughter last week. Veda Gundaker came into this world. So congrats to all the Gundakers and Donnie Schatz as well.
Appreciate that.
So congrats.
Thank
man.
you. Yep. Been pretty cool having her at home already, so it's wild how that happens. I told Savannah it got real that the day we were going to the hospital, I put the second car seat in the truck. I stepped back. I literally was standing outside by myself. I stepped back and I just said, "Oh shit!" It got real in a hurry. And so, it's been wonderful. Donnie was here for the weekend, and Savannah's mom Erica was down for the weekend, and her grandma Donnie actually flew her grandma down as well. So just really cool to spend a lot of family time with them, and now have 2 daughters running around in this world. Pretty crazy and super exciting. So. They're going to grow up playing in the dirt and hanging out and all those good things. And, just, happy that she was healthy and everything went smooth with Savannah. That's obviously the number one thing, is that everybody's healthy and good. And luckily for us, everything went smooth. And we were out of the hospital by Thursday and got to hang out and enjoy some of that time already. So, thanks. I appreciate it.
Well, I know it's a racing show, folks, but at the same time, it's real. What we have here, and just like that's why we do these things, to show everybody at home and our audience and everything else that we care about everybody. And our job is simple. Besides family stuff, we want to grow the sport of dirt racing, and we're doing the best that we can at it. And I'm going to let Gordy close off, but before I say that, I just want to say again, thanks to Spencer Bayston for coming on the show. And, man, it was a great podcast with Spencer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's great having a lot of these guys on here, and we're super thankful for everybody that comes on the show and all the people who listen at home. We just want to keep bringing awesome interviews and conversations with all these guys and letting you get to know them, more and hear some of the things they really talk about and care about. And that's what the Dirt Parlor is. We're passionate about this sport, and we just want to let it keep growing and keep flourishing the way it is. And thankful for all of our great partners here at the Dirt Parlor. We couldn't do it without any of them. So, until next week, make sure you guys like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week.